Alright, Darkfall Cave. This is where the Elder Scroll said we'd find Ariel's bow. Something tells me it's not going to be easy, though. We're not just going to walk in, grab it, and run out.
Yes?
See if Serana had anything else to say about it. It's nice to check in with her occasionally and see if she has any new dialogue. New things you can talk to her about. It seems like each stage of her story, you know, the DLC, as you know, do certain things, you can get to know her a little better. And you can really choose whether you want to piss her off or not, actually. Whether she draws closer to you or stays kind of aloof. She'll still follow you regardless, but, yeah, it's pretty cool. You can actually develop something of a friendship with her. We'll be running into our share of Falmer down here. There's several places you can get a little bit of the lore about the Falmer, not just here. They're basically the ancient snow elves who got into a bad deal, a bad agreement with the dwarves, who offered them basically sanctuary, but it's kind of screwed them over.
Stay on your guard.
And we'll get a more detailed look into all that, but that's kind of the gist of it. And the snow elves themselves will play a big part of how this DLC turns out. Kind of wondering if there's anywhere else to go. I think I need to fall down this hole, and then the river's going to carry me down to the next area. I don't think there's anywhere to go from here. Seems like I remember jumping down. Well, screw it. What's the worst that can happen? I have to reload, right? Or be chased down by a friggin' flock of spiders. Okay. Kind of riding the rapids here. Okay, well this isn't cool. Ambushed by a half-dozen spiders after the end of a waterfall ride. Now, I remember my very first time through here, which was a long time ago, so I remember actually very little about this place. I just remember spending, oh my gosh, more than a day in here. In this and the adjoining areas where, you know, we go as we get, you know, go to actually get the bow. Lots of places to explore. I was looking in every corner and just checking the place out. There's some decent loot and stuff, and there's some cool things you can do. There's a place we'll be running into eventually. I think it's called the Forbidden Vale or the Forgotten Vale or something like that. Anyway, it's a relatively large area with some interesting stuff to go find and do besides just, you know, going through there to get the bow. That's pretty much all we'll do. To be honest, like I said, I'm not going to spend an entire day searching that area, but it's pretty good sized area. Has some kind of neat stuff there. Falmer caves and other things besides just the areas you need to go to do what you have to do. But they definitely gave us a lot of content to explore. I was talking about that in a previous video, like, you know, for DLC, they really went above and beyond the Call of Duty. Really, I mean, they kind of went over the top with it, because consider all the areas that have been introduced into the game already, and then you have this. There'll be like a cave system, then you have the Forgotten or Forbidden Vale, whatever it's called, then you have that whole area, and then the area at the end of that, and then, you know, you factor in the new like, you know, this follower who's like the best follower ever, right, and the new NPCs and people you can interact with, and you can make something of a choice. I kind of prefer siding with the vampires in a way, but I did it this way in particular so that I could get Serana to turn my character into a vampire, and it was more, you know, I guess like a sentimental thing. Kind of cheesy, but whatever. But it was, you know, you even get the line, like, if anyone's going to do it, I wanted you to do it type of thing. I certainly didn't want Harkon biting my neck or doing any of that. You know, stay away from me, dude. Don't touch me. Stop touching me. Yeah, I wasn't down with that. It kind of turns out the same either way, though. I have gone both routes to kind of see, take a look at, if you side with one or the other, and there's a bit of a difference. On one hand, you've got the Dawnguard you side with, and you have access to like the fort, and on the other hand, you have the vampires side with, and you have access to the vampire castle, which is really cool in its own right. Dawnguard has some cool stuff. You eventually get access to armored trolls. I think you can essentially use them as you would like a dog, as kind of a temporary follower, go along with you.
Oh, what is
kind
it?
of thing.
This better not be all the things you just can't be bothered with.
There you go. Give her a torch. See if she'll use it. Uthgard was real good about that. If it wasn't just high noon outside, she'd bring a torch out. Sometimes she'd be so dedicated to her torch it'd take her a minute to pull her weapons out when we got into a fight. She'd be like, "You sure you don't want some light with that?" If I ever do another playthrough of this just for myself, just to play, I might side with the Dawnguard again just to have that one Nord girl as a follower. Ingrid or whatever her name was. Anyway, there's a Nord girl, and I don't remember her. I would have remembered her. Which I'm sure would require staying with the Dawnguard all the way through the whole story type of thing. But I mean, you have Serana with you regardless, at least for a time. I mean, she's necessary. Like I say, we are essentially with the Dawnguard as far as the game's concerned. Serana's along anyway. I mean, she's going to come with us during this part of it anyway. But I'm assuming that girl with the Dawnguard could be your follower after, And something to look into. I will start a whole nother playthrough just with one particular thing in mind, just to go experience that in the game. What a difference it makes, just having a follower, even if it just means, some different dialogue in an area or two, or, some different personal dialogue, or, companion stuff, or whatever, doesn't matter. I see some new thing, or, I'll do that with pretty much anything, not just characters, but like weapons. If I see a new weapon or set of armor, and it applies to a particular playstyle, I'll go start another character and literally build my character around that one particular item. And if the item's relatively weak or something like that, then compensate for it somewhere else with the character to make up for it, just so, something. Maybe it's something that looks cool, or maybe it's a gun that's just like really, really badass.
Did you hear something?
Or in this case, like a sword, or whatever. I considered doing a mage build just so I could run around in the tavern clothes, like that, because you have clothing bonuses being a mage, and stuff like that. I will do that. I not have a problem investing 60, 100, 150 hours into a game just and build it around just some new thing that I think looks cool, or some new character that I found that's interesting. I expect to find a lot of that in Fallout. Talk to the right person and make friends with the right person and wind up having access to a particular faction in the game, or particular stuff, particular items that you wouldn't otherwise have. Maybe a particular kind of skill or a particular kind of thing that really fits my playstyle. It could be anything. But they will just pepper that stuff all through their games. I expect to be overwhelmed by Fallout. That's actually, as I edit this right here, Fallout is about 6 hours away as I sit here. In fact, it's really kind of hard to edit this video right now because I'm kind of on edge, kind of jittery, man. Anxious, seriously anxious. Can't wait for that thing. Been waiting 7 years for it, and the day has finally come, and it's almost hard to believe that it's here. It's like, something. The end of the world has to happen at 11 o'clock or something, because this couldn't actually be the time. Finally.
I am Knight Paladin Gelibor. Welcome to the Great Chantry of Auriel. Auriel, Auriel, Halkosh, Akatosh, so many different names for the sovereign of the Snow Elves. I prefer Snow Elf. The name Falmer usually holds a negative meaning to most travelers. Those twisted creatures you call Falmer, I call the Betrayed. Of course, you're here for Auriel's bow. Why else would you be here? I can help you get it, but first, I must have your assistance. For the thousands of years I've served as the Chantry's Sentinel, there hasn't been a single visitor here for any other reason. They request Auriel's bow, and I request their assistance. It's been repeated so many times, I can't imagine it any other way. I need you to kill Archcurate Vertha, my brother. The kinship between us is gone. I don't understand what he's become, but he's no longer the brother I once knew. It was the Betrayed. They did something to him. I just don't know why Auriel would allow this to happen. They swept into the Chantry without warning, and began killing everyone without pause. The Chantry was a place of peaceful worship. I led a small group of paladins, but we were no match for the Betrayed's sheer numbers. They slaughtered everyone, and stormed the inner sanctum, where I believe they corrupted Vertha. He's alive. I've seen him, but something's wrong. He never looks as though he's in pain or under duress. He just stands there and watches, as though waiting. Leaving the way shrines unguarded would be violating my sacred duty as a Knight Paladin of Auriel, and an assault on the Betrayed guarding the inner sanctum would only end with my death. Yes, let me show you.
Alright. I call this the last Snow Elf, and essentially he is, and you'll see what I mean by that later. But, he's like literally the last of his line, holding his sacred duties to basically watch over the temple. In this case, it's just one of these shrines, what he calls a way shrine. You might be familiar with that from Elder Scrolls Online, actually.
This structure is known as a way shrine. They were used for meditation and for transport when the Chantry was a place of enlightenment. Prelates of these shrines were charged with teaching the mantras of Auriel to our initiates.
What's that basin in the center signify?
Once the initiate completed his mantras, he'd dip a ceremonial ewer in the basin at the way shrine center and proceed to the next way shrine.
So these initiates had to lug around a heavy pitcher of water. Marvelous. How long would they have to do that?
Well, once the initiate's enlightenment was complete, he'd bring the ewer to the Chantry's inner sanctum. Pouring the contents of the ewer into the sacred basin of the sanctum would allow him to enter for an audience with the Archcurate himself.
All that just to end up dumping it out? Makes no sense to me.
It's symbolic. I don't expect you to understand.
So, let's get this straight. You need to do all that nonsense to get into the temples so we can kill your brother and claim Auriel's bow.
I know how it all sounds. But if there was another way, I'd have done it long ago. The only way to get to my brother is by following in the Initiate's footsteps and traveling from way shrine to way shrine, just as they did. The first lay at the end of Darkfall Passage, a cavern that represents the absence of enlightenment. There are 5 in total, spread far apart across the Chantry. Caves? Oh no. The Chantry encompasses far more than a few caves, as you'll soon discover. But before I send you on your way, you'll need the Initiate's ewer. Once you've located a way shrine, there'll be a spectral prelate tending to it. They will allow you to draw the waters from the shrine's basin, as if you've been enlightened. This may be the last time we're able to converse. If you have any questions before you leave, I suggest you ask them. Otherwise, all I can do now is grant you my hopes for a safe journey. Questions? I expected as much. We were once a wealthy and prosperous society that occupied a portion of Skyrim. Unfortunately, we were constantly at war with the Nords, who claimed the land as their ancestral home. In a manner of speaking, we had always maintained an uneasy alliance with the underground-dwelling dwarves, and when faced with extinction, we turned to them for help. Surprisingly, they agreed to protect us, but demanded a terrible price: the blinding of our race. There were splinter groups that resisted the agreement, and even some that sought alternate alliances. But when it was all said and done, those elves were either slaughtered, vanished, or gave up and took the dwarves' bargain. I've often asked myself that very same question. The blinding of my race was supposedly accomplished with a toxin, certainly not enough to devolve them into the sad and twisted beings they've become. The Chantry is quite isolated, so it took some time for word of the dwarves' offer to reach us here. By the time the compact had been completed, it was too late for us to even attempt to intervene. Correct. We only numbered perhaps 100 at the time, so our presence remained a secret to the dwarves and the Nords. Ironically, our undoing came at the hands of our own people. Yes, they swarmed the Chantry in vast numbers until we were completely overrun. We never really stood a chance. I assumed that the Archcurate was corrupted by them when they found a way to breach the inner sanctum. Werther and myself are the only two snow elves that remain. They're ghosts of the snow elf priests that tended the way shrines before being slaughtered by the betrayed. Through the grace of Auriel, they were restored to their spectral form to enable them to continue their duties. I'm afraid in their current form, they still believe the Chantry to be an active center of worship. They won't respond to you in any way other than believing that you're an initiate and you're undertaking the journey to the inner sanctum. This is, or was, the epicenter of our religion. Most of the Snow Elf people worshipped Auriel. The Chantry was constructed near the beginning of the First Era to provide a retreat for those that wish to become enlightened. Our empire had temples to some of the other deities. Trinimac, Sirabane, Yffrey, and Finister rounded out the rest. But those temples paled in comparison to the glory of the Chantry and its way shrines. Oh yes, they were an important part of the process here. They represented the steps the initiates took on the path to total enlightenment. Sadly, the magic used to construct these wonders were lost long before I arrived here. May Auriel keep you free from harm.
Here you go, a little insight there to the dwarves and their bad dealings with the Snow Elves initially.
Questions? I expected as much.
Alright, so we'll be finding these basins and we gotta fill this jug, essentially. Checkpoints on our way to the bow. Alright, before we do any of that...
As unpleasant as I thought it would be.
Well, that's kind of cool, wasn't it?
Kind of soothing, actually. I feel a little warmer now.
Before we can get to any of that, we gotta get through this next gauntlet. And this is gonna be interesting. Lots of Falmer here, lots of Falmer. Alright, and I guess that's where we can pick up on the next one. Alright, thanks for watching, guys. If you want to subscribe, click that button up top if you haven't already. And if you want to catch the rest of this Let's Play up to this point, then click that image there in the middle. It should send you to the playlist. Alright? Y'all take care and have fun. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.